change in 1 year. It's been exactly 1 year since I wrote that letter to myself. I kept it safely in my journal during all of 2025, and I have not opened it or reread it since I wrote it. And it's funny because reading it now, my views and thoughts have changed a lot since then. 2026 is starting soon, and this will actually be my 10th year journaling and sharing my journals online. I've grown up in the past 10 years, I've changed a lot over the past 10 years, but I think specifically within the past 1 year since I wrote that letter, I've learned a lot about myself and my relationship to creativity and journaling. I kind of wanted to share those things in this video as I set up my journal for 2026. When I read my letter to myself and rewatched my video from last year, I noticed I talked a lot about freeing myself from pressure. I think sharing my life and my journal creations online for the past 10 years has come with constant expectations. Honestly, most of it was self-inflicted, but I felt a lot of expectations to post regularly, make something better or more creative each time. And I think this is honestly just a part of being online. But over time, I definitely started to resent that pressure, and I reached a point where I just needed to break down the structure that I'd built. And this past year, I really did remove pressure and expectations for myself. I stripped journaling down to its bare bones. I wrote regularly, but not creatively or artistically. I stopped sharing a lot of my monthly videos and my journal spreads and focused on other projects instead, and creative journaling slowly just sort of faded in the background for me. I still journaled a lot this past year, but it was more just like writing down my thoughts like a diary, so it felt a little too personal to share online sometimes. And that brings us to where we are now. And these beginning of the year setup videos have always acted as like a landmark for the end of the year for me, where I get to reflect on the past year and think about what I want to say for the upcoming year, especially since it marks my 10th year journaling. To do that, I actually looked through a bunch of my old bullet journals from when I was posting more consistently, and it made me realize a few things. Number one, journaling is for my future self as much as it is for my current self. Flipping through all of my old bullet journal pages honestly felt like opening up a time capsule. I could so clearly see my memories, my emotions, how I felt, my life. Even the spreads that I remember not liking at the time or sort of forcing myself to do at the time felt precious looking at them now. And I didn't feel the same way reading pages that had only words. I think because I'm an artist, I really love visuals, and now I honestly kind of regret this past year only writing down words and not having a visual creative documentation of 2025. It felt like I broke my decade-long tradition. And maybe part of it too is that now that it's my 10th year of journaling, there's finally been enough years removed for me to truly appreciate this physical archive of my adolescence and my early 20s. I realized I really do want to continue this tradition and have like a physical memory museum for my future years. My second realization is that structure doesn't kill creativity, it supports it. I thought that removing routine and pressure would make me more creative and allow me to be the free spirit that I am, but it honestly did the opposite. I think in the past, having to post monthly and having that regular routine of creating pushed me to create ideas that I honestly wouldn't have reached otherwise. And as free-spirited and creative as I am, I actually desperately need structure in order to follow through and create work that I'm proud of. In my little mind universe, the idea of a world with no pressure at all sounds so ideal, but I've realized that I actually thrive with a bit of structure and routine, even though it goes kind of against my natural instincts. So I definitely need to have the self-discipline to set myself up best in order to actually create. My third realization sort of goes hand in hand with the last one, which is that I need to rebuild trust with myself and schedule creativity. This past year made me realize how easy it is to push off my creative time, especially when there are more quote-unquote important things to do, which there will always be, I guess. By telling myself I would do it when I had more time or when I felt more inspired or more motivated, I slowly lost trust in myself to actually follow through with my own convictions almost. I know this sounds kind of intense, but I feel like I almost lost the belief that I am capable of doing hard things or showing up for myself when I'm not feeling the greatest. And then I found myself wondering why I didn't feel as motivated anymore. But I heard a saying that kind of applies here, which is that motivation doesn't change your life, habits will. If you're waiting for that moment where you wake up feeling magically inspired and motivated to change your life, that moment will never come. Trust me, I've waited for it. You build that motivation and inspiration by showing up for yourself through your habits and your daily choices. And for me, I definitely lost a little bit of trust in myself, especially when it comes to creative things over the past year. I found myself questioning a lot of my thoughts and my opinions and my decisions, which I felt like I never did as much when I was creating more regularly. I know I talked about a lot here, but I think these realizations about how I interact with creativity and how I want to be and show up in life really apply, especially at the beginning of the year, because I want to set my intentions right for 2026. Of course, I want to talk about what I'm actually creating in my journal here. For this year's beginning of the journal theme, I actually created this theme by accident, just by playing with a bunch of materials that I had on my desk. I had put a sticker down on my paper and then I colored over it in this sort of blended, halo-y, airbrushed sort of vibe with my color pencil. And then when I removed the sticker, it looked like the star was glowing, which I thought was so cool, and it kind of looked like glowing, colorful orbs or constellations. So that's sort of what I went with for this whole setup theme. I played with a bunch of colors, mainly pinks, blues, greens, yellows, purples, and then I also have a lot of star stationery. Over the years I've collected quite a bit, so I played with a lot of those star stickers and doodles, and I really love the way that this came together in a sort of collage-y, mixed media, playing with different materials sort of way. It sort of grew as I created the spreads instead of going into it with a set specific end goal in mind, and I really love that method of creating art, and to bring that into my journaling, it felt really natural and organic in a way. In past years, I've done quick little loose pencil sketches before creating a spread, but for this, I just went right in with the materials and with the pen, and I feel like it all slowly built together, especially for this Welcome to 2026 spread. I feel like it's really cute. I have a little area where I'm writing what I'm manifesting for the year, and the stars look like they're floating throughout my spread. This past year, as you guys know, I spent a lot of time focusing on Shop ARL and bringing to life projects that I have been dreaming of, like the Little Doodle Friends and the LA pop-up. Since the very beginning of Shop ARL 7 years ago, I have always used Shopify. Shopify is really like a launch pad for aspiring entrepreneurs, giving people the resources and tools to turn their ideas into successful businesses. And that's exactly what the Doodle Planner was for me. It was originally just this idea in my head. I knew nothing about starting a business, running a business, managing a business. It was because of Shopify that I was able to figure things out and build this business and still have it exist and continue today. We've been doing a lot more in-person events with Shopify POS. Everything is so seamless and easy. I can accept payment on my phone or with the POS readers. And even if you're not selling in person, Shopify makes it super easy to sell on social media through Google, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and you can even collaborate with other brands and manage your operations there. But I think knowing that Shopify is able to mold to whatever direction I want to go with Shop ARL has been so comforting and reliable to me. It really does allow me the freedom to dream big. So if you guys have been dreaming of starting your own business, maybe it's your goal for 2026, I highly recommend Shopify. And to give you that extra little push, I have a free trial for you. So you can start your free trial of Shopify by going to this link. It's just shopify.com/AmandaHLee. And I can't wait to see you guys grow those ideas. I'm so glad that I wrote a letter to myself last year because it really gave me a peek into how I was thinking and feeling exactly 1 year ago. And of course, it was also the catalyst for a lot of the reflections and things that I'm talking about in this video. So I wanted to do it again this year. right at the beginning of my journal, I created a section for me to put my letter to myself, and of course I won't read it until next year. I used this washi paper that I actually got from my trip to Japan. If you watched my Japan stationery video, then you'll see that I went to this traditional washi paper making workshop, and there was all this beautiful dyed washi paper, and I felt like this was the perfect place to use it because it had those soft airbrush dyed colors on it, especially when I layered it together. So I glued it on the sides and the bottoms to create like a pocket for me to put the letter to myself when I finish it at the end. And then I decorated it with my little star orbs, star stickers, and I wrote, "Do not open until 2027. That's crazy. Next year's gonna be 2027. Something that I used to do a lot in my journals, which I noticed when I was looking through my old bullet journals, was I used to do a lot more vision boarding. And again, since I mentioned I'm such a visual person, I feel like images and pictures really do a lot for me. So I wanted to create a vision board using actual images instead of just writing down my goals. Apart from just having the images of what you want to work towards, I think also the intention of searching up images for your vision board really makes it intentional, and I think that's what I noticed when I was making this vision board. I feel like to actually search up images, print them, and put them in the journal, it took so many steps that now it's sort of burned into my memory of how I want to intentionally go into 2026. I found all of these images on Pinterest, and I definitely had little themed areas on this vision board. Like one of the corners was about me developing my personal style a little bit more, especially as I'm getting a little bit older. The second corner at the top right was about me moving possibly to a new city and curating a new apartment space, which is exciting. The second area is about travel, about work and creativity and art. And again, as you can see, there's a lot of layered collaging happening during this setup. So I cut out a lot of the images, doodled over them, layered them, and kind of made sure that it was in the layout that I wanted. And it was really fun to do. Also, let me know in the comments what is on your guys' vision board for 2026, or what your goals are, or what you're manifesting. We can use this video as like accountability. So once you write it in the comments, now you have to actually go and make it happen. So we can look back on this comment section next year. In the spirit of creating a time capsule of who I am in this very moment, I wanted to create a profile page of who I am. So that's what I'm doing. I put a picture of myself, how I look in this moment, this year, and then I wrote down what are my current interests, what I'm currently loving, and this is always fun for me to look back on. And I think, like I mentioned, I really loved having a archive of who I am throughout the years. And I think right now that's what I'm gravitating towards using my journals for, almost like a scrapbook instead of the traditional bullet journal where it's more planner spreads. Of course, I still am gonna do that, but I really like the visuals of it all. I was actually hesitant to call this a bullet journal setup because it doesn't have those typical bullet journal spreads that I would usually do at the beginning of the year, but I wanted to show you guys how I'm setting up my journals anyways, because I know we're all starting a new page for the new year, and hopefully this will give you some inspiration, or maybe you can just apply it to how you are setting up your journal. If you are doing a more traditional planner bullet journal spread, you can use this theme and this style for inspiration, but if not, that's totally fine as well. At this point, I was having a lot of fun with a lot of the materials. I had punched out some of these stars using a craft punch on a pattern piece of paper, and you can see I used that as a stencil, and I also had a little rectangle piece of paper, so I put that over my journal and then used my color pencils to create that sort of halo blurry effect, as well as a border for some text where this is where I'm writing what I'm currently into, like what songs I'm loving, what shows I'm watching, that sort of thing. And I feel like it matches the theme so well, especially with all of those star orbs of color as well. I wanted everything to look soft and glowy, so that's why I also didn't use a black pen for any of this. I used a brown pen actually, which is one of my recent obsessions, is using like lighter gel pens instead of like the stark black. I love it. It just makes everything look so soft and dreamy. This stamp that you see me using was actually a hand-carved stamp that I bought from an artist at an art fair I think a year ago, and I thought it was really cute. I used this sort of chalky stamp pad ink with this taupe color, which I feel like layered with the colors well. That's also what I used for the polka dot stamp that I use a lot in order to add texture throughout these spreads. I've been really loving collecting stamps and ink pads in different colors. I feel like adding stamps to a spread adds a sort of texture and dimension that you can't really achieve with just doodles or stickers. It's so easy and it looks so good when it all comes together. I brought back out the Japanese washi paper to create a header for this next spread, which is a 2026 bingo spread. This is kind of fun. I did this last year, but I don't think I shared it on my YouTube channel. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's a spread for you to play bingo with yourself in order to complete your bucket list or your resolutions. I feel like I always like to gamify things and it gives me motivation to actually do things. So this is really fun. And since my whole theme this year is building habits and getting off to a good start with intention, I themed all of the bingo slots around habits that I want to make myself do. I put very achievable things like going on a run, going on a walk, doing a workout class, doing a Pilates class, making a craft, donating to an organization, and these are all doable things that I want to complete by the end of January. So I wanted to give myself a little bit of a shorter timeline instead of doing it for all of 2026, just because again, I want to give myself that really good start to 2026. Let me know if you guys do this as well, but sometimes when I'm writing a to-do list, I'll write down a task that I know is super easy for me to do or that I've already done, just so I can feel that satisfaction of checking off something on my to-do list right away. And I feel like that's what I'm trying to achieve with this bingo spread, just making myself do small habits that I know will make me feel good for January and hopefully continue this for the rest of the year. So here are all of the spreads that I made so far at the beginning of my brand new journal for 2026. I feel like you can definitely see the theme that I've set myself for this journal, not only visually and creatively, but also mindset-wise. I really went into it wanting to build goals, build habits, and build routine, but kind of still with that creative twist. I'm definitely going to be making some more bullet journal style beginning of the year spreads in the future, but I'll do that in a separate video. But here's what I have so far. So to answer the question, how much can you really change in 1 year? I think a lot. I'm constantly changing and readjusting my thoughts based on my experiences. Maybe I'll completely disagree with what I said in this video next year, who knows? But what I do know is that as of right now, I definitely want a way to look back and remember it all.